Yes, it's a prayer. It's a prayer. It's a prayer from the prayer. It's a book called Brahma, Brahma Samhita.
Yeah, I think because we as a general audience, we'll just call it
just a prayer.
Right. I'm just going to have to do this off the top of my head. Actually.
All right.
So that's really do it. Now I've got written down the founder and singer on George Harrison's Radha-Krishna Temple album. Are you founder of this temple?
No, one of a party of 6 adults that were sent here to start this whole London Hare Krishna.
All right, so you were one of the
in
early...
68, we're the first,
yeah. You were one of the pioneers.
Yeah, that's right.
So sent over from where was it?
San Francisco,
San
California.
Francisco, right.
That's
okay. Yamuna Devi Das is one of the pioneers of the movement, sent over in 1968 from San Francisco, and the woman we heard in the background there singing that devotional prayer. What is it, Yamuna, that made a good Italian Catholic, Joan Campanella from the Rocky Mountains, turn to Hare Krishna?
Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. He's the founder of this institution of ISKCON. And when I met him in 1966, I fell in love with his character, his energy, his message, and his person. That's what made me become a Hare Krishna.
But you were, as I say, a good Catholic girl from the Rocky Mountains. Mm-hmm. Why did you change your spiritual direction?
Because it covered all the bases. This was the thing that resonated with me. We all have our parents' religion, or not. But this one just resonated to the core. Everything about it seemed right to me. It might have been from some other time and place that I was attracted, and this was my time to connect up.
And one of your other claims to fame is you were, among many others, a singer on George Harrison's Radha-Krishna Temple album. What was that like?
A lot of fun. Exciting, profound. It was just a magical time. We met George, he liked us, we liked him. He was a producer with Apple then, and he liked our sound. We were chanting this prayer that we just heard. And he heard that, and he said, I want to record that. And that's how it started. All of the work we did with George was from him hearing this.
What was it, do you think, that appealed to one of the most famous, successful musicians at the time on the planet? Why was he attracted to this way of life?
Same the way I was. He found something in it deep and profound and real. So everyone comes their own way, right? But for George, I think it was this mantra, this Hare Krishna mantra. He had chanted that with John, he said, on a boat trip around Greek islands. And he loved it, and they chanted for a long time. And so when he heard us, and we were seriously chanting it, he said, I like this, I want to do this.
Now, the so-called swinging 60s may be rather glamorous, but in England at least, they didn't really start, the 60s didn't really start till the 70s. The 60s were a kind of drab grey place. What was it like for you coming over from the West Coast?
I found it not a drab place. It was a tail end, and perhaps San Francisco was a little more vibrant in terms of that era, but London was a close second, and under the surface things were moving. So it was a very receptive field for our message. People were open to chanting, and certainly when George got involved, it just exploded. I mean, it was everywhere, the holy name, and he recorded the Maha Mantra itself. So it was a natural transition.
I mean, was there ever a danger, though, that for some people it was a lifestyle thing? It was something they took up because it was fashionable, it was exotic, it was new. And the spiritual stuff was really not that important.
No, the opposite. It's truly the opposite. Yes, maybe some people were attracted to others for fashion, or it still goes on today. No, I think genuinely because of the character of this Bhaktivedanta Swami, he gave the real thing, the genuine article, and if it was your time to hear it, it was a matter of hearing it. If you heard him, you listened to him, You couldn't find anything that was wrong about it. It was just so practical, usable. Granted, it was a foreign sound, foreign language, but it was a real thing. So if someone listened to it, they could appreciate it.
And how would you say the movement now is different from your early pioneering days?
It's evolving, it's breathing, changing as everything must, but based on the same tenets. That's the beauty of this process. It's one of the reasons why it is real, is that it's been handed down like a careful, like a jewel, something precious, something very valuable. And it can only be contaminated by manipulating the message. So because it was handed down, it's been preserved, it's very powerful. Same.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Pleasure speaking with you.
Great, thanks a lot.
Thanks.
Right, thanks. Oh, thanks very much for waiting. Hi. Hi, lovely to meet you. Sorry, what's your name?
Malvati.
Malvati, right. And your title is?
Malvati.
I'm just wondering if you're on this list of whether it makes any difference at all.
Malvati is the statues. Oh, where is it?
Didn't appear to be on it.
She's one of the most senior ladies.
She's one of the original 6.
She's the original 6.
4 of the original 6 are here now.
And are you one of the original 6?
I'm one of the original 6. She is, and these 2 gentlemen over here are 2 of the real originals.
So, if you just tell me your names.
And I'm a disciple of this Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada.
It's a very difficult one to sum up the whole philosophy of the way of life and the thinking in a nutshell, but what, in your view, is the essence of the faith?
We are not this body, we are spirit soul, servant of the Supreme Lord. And it is our eternal duty to serve God.
Are you, in any sense, mainstream Hinduism, in many people's mind, and ISKCON do seem rather different. Is that a false dichotomy sort of thing?
No, there are differences. We are not worshiping demigods. We are worshiping the one Supreme Personality of Godhead. We may have different names. We prefer the name Krishna, but we recognize other names are there. We honor and respect the demigods and saints, but we don't put them in the
Still the impetus
Supreme
to
Lord.
this day.
Now,
Want to do things to please Sri
a lot of West,
Prabhupada.
particularly Americans.
So back in San Francisco, we were saying we'd like to go to
Which you
London,
might assume sort of.
and one of the things also we were
Any
saying,
same person.
this group, the Beatles, were getting popular.
Interested in the truth.
said,
What is the truth? What is the meaning of life?
Beatles,
And
if we can.
the answers are so profoundly given. The answers are this is my purpose. Who am I? What am I? What am I doing here? What is my purpose? Where am I going? They're answered in a very clear, forthright way through our books.
I mean, take me back 40 years. What was it actually like setting up base here?
He was asking me, he said, well,
Okay.
we want to do a big service.
Yeah,
big
well, it was,
devotional service.
You know,
Lots
it
of
was
risk to
the
do
rock and
something.
roll era, hippie era, love and peace brother era,
Should you first
and
pray
a lot
to
of
Krishna
free
for
expression
strength
was going on.
to guide you and help you on
That
this
was making
devotional
it easier
mission
for
that
us
you
to
want to
enter,
undertake?
bringing in a message that appeared to be new, was counted to old.
Because then it won't be a surprise. The whole idea
We went out on
of
the
pleasing your
streets,
spiritual
we
master
started
Krishna is that
on
you
the streets, chanting.
serve some,
and
bringing some devotional
attracted
service
various young men and women
You do
who
it
came,
with all
and
your
eventually we were able to establish
Krishna
a
has to help.
temple which was on Thursday.
Well, obviously you attracted devotees, but didn't you attract rather curious, sometimes disapproving,
Over and over again in San
That
Francisco.
was
No
everywhere.
matter how big the risk,
In
you're
other
doing it
words,
only for Krishna,
people
for your spiritual
decided
master.
that
Krishna has to
both
intervene.
views
Person
against
has to
different
come. So with that mandate, we can throw it all to the wind.
those people you will find.
We used our brains and our intelligence.
Basically,
We had strategies.
we tend to
Made plans.
disregard
None of our plans
information
worked.
that is
We
passed
thought
by.
them out too much.
Or if the person is
The whole idea was just to
somewhat
let it all hang
disturbing,
out.
but they're open
Try
to
to
hearing
surprise
things, then
Prabhupada with
usually
something
you can,
wonderful.
explain something, then you might come away.
We knew that Krishna had to come and intervene.
But I mean, times have changed, and people are more accepting of you and take you as part and parcel of the street furniture.
Yeah, we're not what they call mainstream, for better or worse.
So what about the next 40?
We can
We
only
saw
hope.
almost on a daily
And
basis.
as David was saying,
Until our lives were really based on that. When I think back on the
Can I just interrupt you? Because I think I might quite like to
every
go
day was
out of the piece.
wonderful opening.
If you could just say as a complete sentence, well, as for the next 40 years,
sure.
I hope and only hope, and if you could keep it
There was some anxiety, of
short, so we
course,
get a nice
but
pithy.
not a lot of anxiety.
so as for the
We
next,
never, we never thought for a
as for the
moment
next
that
40
we would,
years, we can only hope they
because we
go
saw
on improving.
Krishna's plan
And we
unfolding
have ample
so
evidence
marvelous.
that is the
We
direction.
knew we were just tiny instruments.
Any
Somehow or other,
foundling
allowing us to
vision
do this.
or organization will undoubtedly have its challenges.
So this
We
kind
have
of
had ours,
risk-taking
I'm sure
to do
challenges.
something wonderful for
And from
Krishna
these challenges, there's often great
should be
growth. I think there's great hope
thought
that
of as my
we maintain purity as a
my
message that we were entrusted
work.
with.
And
People go
even,
as they
even
should.
Okay.
that I don't depend on, I mean, I depend on others.
It was a pleasure.
Thank you, and
And
lovely
a
to
lot of
meet you.
interviews too.
Call
You
on
were
any
good
special,
things, make people comfortable.
Good.
And questions, nice questions.
Yeah,
dispensation.
Were you around yet? How old are you?
I'm 58.
And you're a
You
baby.
will.
Yeah, keep talking. Keep
No,
talking.
every decade, the older it gets older, right?
This kind of mood that we
I
were
came from the
in.
north of England, and London
I
was
see it happening now. I thought I was thinking on the way in as we drove into the
Devotees
Went back there once
Did you?
in
Yeah.
'68, I think.
How can you come back after 40 years and expect such
What are people's perceptions of
dividend?
what's changed in the last 40 years? Do you think you managed to
No regrets.
since you've been here in London? People know
Wonderful way to have spent
about it.
I'm sure my brothers and sisters.
Also, I mean, when people think about Hare Krishna, they think of chanting outside. They think of famous people who had an association with them, like George Harrison, who was associated with the Hare Krishnas. Do you think there's an understanding that the movement is actually a real religion which can affect change? Do you think people are aware of that? Also, I'll ask you, what can I ask you? They're the main things.
I can answer the first one if you want me to start.
We're going to start off then. You're going to ask them? Yeah.
So basically, it's just because it's 40 years and what's been achieved. What were your thoughts when you founded it 40 years ago? What made you start it off?
At the time, so people had to come across the Hare Krishna mantra. That's a wonderful thing because that mantra means deliverance of the mind. So we're very happy as one of the results is that Hare Krishna is now a household word in this. Would you like to add anything?
As a result of our efforts here back in '68, as a launching pad for Europe, the Hare Krishna movement has spread out all over Europe, and nowadays behind the Iron Curtain, the so-called Iron Curtain, and in the 60s, 70s, is gone, and there are hundreds of thousands of devotees in those countries, Russia and the other countries. Even in China and places like that, the devotees who started those temples came from the London group as it evolved over the years.
So London really was almost a launch pad for others. So not London was a launch pad?
Yes, and our launch pad for coming here was San Francisco. That unique time in the late 60s when the young people of the world were looking for different types of answers to the question. We had met this wonderful, great spiritual master who we all fell in love with, and it was his desire to start a center in London. And under his order, we came here and prospered. As Guru Das explained, our motive for coming here was simply to serve our spiritual master, making that.
And the reason you came here, you said, was there were a lot of young people looking out for something new and something to fulfill them. Do you think that's still the case, that young people are still looking for something to fulfill them?
Definitely. At a certain period of people's lives, young people are trying to find out who they are. And this gives answers to who am I, why am I here, where am I going. So, like we were young, we were actually going to many spiritual traditions. I was studying them. And a lot of the answers I was seeking came through my spiritual master, so it made me happy. So I wanted to share it with everybody. And when we came here, there weren't any expectations per se, but we did want to also meet the Beatles. That was one of our plans in San Francisco.
Now you say you wanted to meet the Beatles, and George Harrison has a long association, or had a long association with you, even donating a property, I understand, in Watford, at the time near Watford, Hertfordshire. But people still, they think of celebrities like George Harrison, they see Hare Krishnas in the streets of London, but do you think that people still take it seriously, or do they just treat it as being, a celebrity-oriented kind of religion?
You can see the results for yourself in this temple. There are hundreds of young English boys and girls here, new young people. This movement is spreading rapidly. You'll find many scholars and noteworthy, intelligent people in this country very much fond of the Krishna movement, because we practice an ancient, very ancient, I won't say religion, but knowledge based from the ancient Vedic scriptures of India, in which every kind of intellectual argument is there. This kind of knowledge was carried down for hundreds of thousands of years in what's called a sampradaya, or a line of disciplic succession, and has been kept intact and pure in a line of spiritual masters that we can trace back into antiquity. So our spiritual master comes in that line and he hands it to us in a pure form. Our life is spent absorbing this knowledge and passing it on to others in a pure form.
And you asked whether people take it seriously. Of course we want people to take it seriously, but it doesn't matter, because the holy name is so powerful that even if you say it in jest, it has effect. Gravity still worked before they defined it in a word like gravity. But this is a transcendental sound vibration. The ends and the means are the same. So even in jest, if you say, Hare Krishna, look at those Hare Krishnas on the street, it still has effect. But those who do take it seriously and want to find out a little bit more, dig a little deeper, then they'll get something out of it. And one of the things we've seen in 40 years is a great number of new people coming and taking to this, young and old. So that's obviously one of the progress points.
And George and the others didn't take the Krishna consciousness lightly. They have access to every kind of cult, or this group, that group is always approaching them. The proof of their participation in Krishna consciousness is the result. They got something from it. And just by chanting this mantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, and Hare Hare, repetitively, you begin to feel something happening. It's a result that anyone can feel by practicing it. And the result of that, then, is what attracts people to Krishna consciousness philosophy and lifestyle.
So what's the plan for the next 40 years?
If we can carry on our tradition in a pure form, as it's going now, it will expand and expand and expand.
We're the instruments in God's plan, so it's already working, and it seems like it's going to continue working. So many blessings have been bestowed upon us. I actually am very fond of Great Britain. It's one of my favorite places. The people are so, in general, polite and intelligent. And we came with 6 and a baby, and soon there were 35, and we had to get another place. Then there were more, so George said, okay, you need a bigger place. We went out and lived with John Lennon at Tittenhurst Park. More and more people came. So that's one of the things that we're happy about, that more and more people are taking to this because it is a nice way of life. And we're nonviolent, we're vegetarian, we want to have more programs like we have Food for Life, where we feed people in war zones. We work in prison ministries. We have eco villages in Africa. That is an example on how to live an alternative way of life. So this wonderful school we went to yesterday, there's a school, where is that?
Wembley. Harrow.
I don't know if you're aware of this school, but it's a wonderful school. And the standards are very high in Britain, and they've met all the standards. So basically, we want to live a simple life with high thinking.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Perfect.
That's it?
Yeah, that's it.
Well, if we can get 10 seconds out of it.
That's what that guy Gandalf said. That's it? You wrote a book?
Yeah, you know, we could get going. We're just getting warmed up. We can go for hours.
Well, thank
It's
you.
just a sound bite.
Thank you very much. Yeah, that's great.
you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So you're going to do
I don't think I will actually. Why not?
Okay, as long as you're happy.
I'm happy. I'm happy. Thanks very much.
We'd like to welcome you anytime as a friend.
Thank you.
I working down there. You know, copper mining operation. I go down there and work for 2 or 3 months at a time. But Mahavishnu, as you know, he still wanders around the Congo with his group. It's a wild place. I've been over there. It's unbelievable what he's doing. So he's going to hook up with me, and we're going to try to start a branch in this mining town in Zambia, northern Zambia. I think it'll be good.
Zambia's tough. We passed through Zambia. I drove a van through Zambia.
Did you?
Yeah.
It's a nice place, really.
Yeah.
Much compared to some of the other parts of Africa as well. The state was very stable.
Good work.
Oh, we're getting there.
No, that's good.
Well, before I die, one of the things I had to do was meet Shyamsundar Prabhu because it's like Janani was in Pankaj Jungri
No,
all
he
over
didn't
again.
say he wanted to meet Gurudas.
I know, but it was
wanted
like this.
I did though.
So you didn't want to meet me.
But no, I want to meet everybody, all 5 of you. But I think I was about Shyamsundar. I read the Leelamrita, and in the Leelamrita he was always doing very sort of. I don't know. Something.
I would want to meet Shyamsundar too.
I don't know why I came over there.
Well, he's done very innovative and wonderful things. So.
I think you all have. It's just we got.
Yeah, but I'd want to meet him too.
It's wonderful. Thank
So
you.
you're in charge of the media? Is that what
Can
you
you come
do?
and look at what we're doing? It just take a minute to show you.
Sure, come on in.
Why don't you do that now?
I wish you had given us about 10-minute warm-up. I know.
I don't even get the camera in here.
Now we're just now getting revved up.
I know. I think they could just
You need a light?
flip. I think they do. But we said positive
looks like
things.
one of yours.
No matter what they do, it's
it was okay.
positive.
Here's this is the website. What we did was we put Mayapur online. I don't know if you can see.
Yeah,
this is a small screen, and on this one the Internet Explorer isn't working. But
Plug it in
what we do
a
is we've got Mayapur's online. They're doing the Bhajan Kutir now. I don't know if you can hear them, but we have to get the headphones aren't really.
That's in
You can hear
live
it
streaming
from
from Mayapur?
24 hours.
Far out. Wow.
And this is the yes, it is really far out.
Can you contact them, or you just?
No, they're actually they're not contactable. It's now the time in Mayapur is 9:20, so there's probably somebody in the operation room above the
Base
Panchayat
is a
extension.
little heavy.
Sorry,
base
we
is-
need to go out there and change the mics because they're not too. Yeah.
You need to go out to India to change the mics?
Yeah. Sorry?
Really? You have to go to India to change the mics?
It's difficult out there to get people who are technically. So we got a great guy out there called Kapna Govinda, and he is so active. He keeps. It's very hard to keep this going because we've got it's during the day it's manned like from 4:30 in the morning until 9:30 at night, and people are like, we're moving the cameras here. There's a fellow there moving the cameras there. So you've got one channel, then we've got ISKCON Live TV. We work with a body called Chitraka in Italy. So
very sweet.
Hey, whoa. Let's see if I can grab them. I say boys. You gonna do more interviews?
We haven't done one yet.
Oh, you didn't do one?
That was television.
Oh, okay. Can we run through our little kirtan thing and see if it's possible to do tomorrow?
I asked Giant Time about a tone-meter pitch thing, you know,
Yeah.
and he said, no, he said, you get together with Garbani and have him do one harmonium note just before we start.
Yeah.
Work out with him what's...
No, we have to do it. I know. I learned last night where we were at.
Okay.
How far in a scale of 1 to 10 do you think we are from our goal?
We would have been caned out of any other venue in the
I'm
world.
thinking the same. So I was with them this morning, and we managed to, you know, do what we needed to do. And what I think we need to do is just do a run through, and then we all decide whether we're worth, you know, if we can get to the same place. So after you're done with your interview, before this evening, we can take a quick run.
And then you can pick out, you know, which tone you want.
A key,
But
yeah.
didn't we think tomorrow would be the time to do it because then we had the proper sound check and everything?
Well, we can always do a run through tomorrow, but what I'd like to do today is see if we decide we're up for it.
Let's get this over with.
Yeah, you do your interview. What time is it? It's only 4, quarter to 5, quarter to 4, after 4. So probably. Yeah, well, I'm blind anyway. Let's see. Well, when you're done.
Yeah.
Okay? And we'll find some kind of a room to do it in.
We do it right here.
Prabhuji, well, I made music for. Can we get together in a space and afterwards and just we have to practice the Maha Mantra?
Yes.
If we can leave it for tomorrow.
Yes, yes. We have to,
Someplace
yes.
close. Okay, after.
Were you one of the pioneers?
One of the
behind
pioneers.
This? Yeah. So what sort of 40 years ago, what were you doing? You were in San Francisco?
Yes, I just graduated from university in philosophy, and I was looking for the absolute truth. And I met my spiritual master there in 1967. And every question that I had, that every Western philosopher and anyone other philosopher that I'd ever approached, those questions remain unanswered. This man answered every question that I had very quickly.
Was it a big step, though, having been steeped in the Western tradition of philosophy, to take up something more experience-based?
Well, I think you can say there was kind of a special window in time in those days, in the 60s. Most of us had the idea that there were no limits to life anymore, that the doors of perception had been opened. And so that when Prabhupada stepped through and presented this philosophy, there was no barrier, there was nothing big to overcome. We fell into it very quickly.
But do you think there could have been a danger that for many people you were swept up in the lifestyle, the fashionableness of it all, that it was seen wrongly, I would say, as part of the excesses of the 60s, that people misunderstood what it was really all about?
We were very cautious. We didn't accept things lightly either. But one glance at this man and his beautiful, not only his physical beauty, which in a 70-year-old man is not often seen. We were so attracted by his physical beauty, his grace, his charm. And then when he opened his mouth, when most people who are beautiful open their mouths, you walk away. But when Prabhupada opened his mouth, he became even more beautiful. His words were like nectar. He took, as George Harrison once said to me, he's put all the pieces of the jigsaw together so quickly. First of all, he told us that God is a person. He has a personality, just like you do. And that you are not this body. You are just an accumulation of matter that you are temporarily inhabiting in this life. And those kind of things quickly present a perspective, a picture, that all the rest of life quickly organizes around and the puzzle is put together.
I mean, in the early stages, certainly in London, it was new, it was exotic, it was colourful, and it was very strange, and a few people perhaps looked askance at it, not being able to understand it. Now it's moved further to the mainstream. How do you think it's evolved since the early 70s?
Well, one of the important features of Krishna consciousness that people understand very quickly is that it's an ancient idea. It's not something new that they have to figure out. It's not controversial or anything in that sense. It's accepted already by 1 billion people in India. It's their most ancient culture. So, I mean, just like you're accepting that E = mc squared, you don't know how or why, but you accept that. So we accepted right away that the authority of our spiritual master was intact from ancient times. It's very easy.
That which brings me to my perhaps final question. Well, it's not. We'll do a separate thing on George, but the Vedic tradition, as you say, is 5,000 years old plus. So 40 years in that sort of time frame is nothing at all. Even so, what does the next 40 years hold?
Well, we've seen in our this last 40 years Krishna consciousness expanding all over the world in a huge way. For example, a small example, we were already a small temple in 1971. I went to Moscow with my spiritual master. We were able to obtain a 5-day visa. You might remember this was the Brezhnev era, and people thought the bombs were going to be dropped on each other in those days. In that tiny, humble beginning, one student approached Prabhupada in that 5 days. He was a philology student, and Prabhupada sat in his hotel room and instructed this boy for 3 days in Krishna consciousness. And from that germ, this mighty tree has developed in 40 years. There are now like 200,000 Krishna devotees behind the old Iron Curtain.
So if we were actually having this conversation in 40 years' time, God willing, what will things be like?
You might find Krishna consciousness as a major force in the world, all over the place.
Thanks for that. Can I specifically now talk about George Harrison? I mean, what was it that attracted perhaps one of the most famous men on the planet at the time to this spiritual devotion?
Well, George felt, even after he had everything, this all happened to him very quickly, and he had everything there was, but he still felt unsatisfied by that. And he had a history, by the time we heard about George, he already had a history of inquiring into the Eastern philosophies. He had been exposed. So he was already curious. The moment he met us, he said, "Where have you been? I've been waiting to meet you guys." We became instant friends. And over the years, he was a pure devotee, great devotee of Krishna. He chanted Hare Krishna every day, his whole life long, and helped the devotees, performed what's called devotional service his whole life long.
And what was it like having such a major celebrity as part of the movement?
Just another friend. He was just a person. We felt so comfortable in each other's presence. There was no awe or reverence type relationships. We were like brothers under the same cloth. He distinguished us from his rock and roll friends. He didn't like to mix the two worlds all that much, but whenever possible, he would get with us in a temple or out at his house or some other place and chant together and talk together. And then, as you know, he wrote many songs about Krishna and our philosophy. These were very much part of his life.
Thanks. Sorry, you were going to say.
And he appreciated that we just treated him like a person, as a friend.
Oh, right, yeah. Perhaps you could pick it up with "and he," say the "and."
And he appreciated us treating him like a friend and a person. He had plenty of yes men around. If we didn't treat him as a friend, then he would have to put on a persona. So he actually liked being with us because he could be who he was. And for such a famous and wealthy and sought-after person, he was such a humble and real and humorous person.
And of course, he bequeathed Bhaktivedanta Mana to the movement, which is a kind of lasting testimony to his association.
Yes, it was very nice to do that, and we were like one of his other projects that he was very proud of. When we were on Top of the Pops, George said that was one of the proudest moments of his life. He liked seeing us there on the tops of the Pops.
I'll just follow that up.
It's over now.
Is it over? I'll just give you, it's the same question I gave to Shyamsundar. Yeah, thanks very much. That was me.
Yeah.
It's the same question. And I want to try and, if I can, I'm looking for a nice rousing out to the piece, you know.
Okay. What's your name, please?
Trevor.
Trevor. Nice to meet you.
Sorry, what's yours?
Guru Das.
Guru Das.
Gurudas.
Okay, Guru Das.
That's my wife.
Oh, right. Now, Guru Das, the Vedic tradition is over 5,000 years old, so 40 years is a drop in the ocean. But if we were having this interview, God willing, in 40 years' time, what would things be like?
Well, we might have Wembley Stadium as a venue. Virgin Airlines might be our mode of transportation. Perhaps Buckingham Palace would be a temple. But actually, I'm just satisfied with the progress that we have now. With 6 of us came with a baby, and now so many bright, young, intelligent, humble people have come to help out. Yesterday I went to a school that was very high standards. Now students are coming from all over Britain to attend this school because we've met the standards.
Okay. I know where I'm going to go after that, because we've got...
That's fine.
That's brilliant. Thanks very much indeed for that. Lovely
That's
to meet
it?
you. Yeah. How old are you?
69 yesterday, and 2 days ago.
Yeah. Or as the Buddhist sage said, we have only one birthday. After that, life is continuing.
Very good. I like your question about the Vedas. That was nice. That took some thought.
Yeah.
So you really have enough?
Yeah, I have that. Yeah. Thanks very much indeed. Lovely to
Thank
meet
you.
you.